Hey everybody, welcome to my Marist Saturday series. I'm here with my wonderful friend Ruthie Davis, who is a fellow CFDA member and designer, and a very, very gifted business person and shoe designer. So Ruthie, welcome, and thank you for joining us and for speaking to our 500 plus students and faculty.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited to talk to everyone today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here with you, and it's interesting because we used to live in the same building in New York City in West Chelsea. Now I live across the street, so we're basically like zooming, 10 feet away from each other, which is the new reality.
I know it's funny, but we've always had I always think of our friendship like on Friends, the TV show,
Yeah,
where we've always been kind of close to each other, living wise.
exactly, exactly. And actually, I just worked in your office. What was it? I was using your office because there was something going on with my dogs, and I couldn't get anything done. So I got to come over to your place and work, and I got to look at all those beautiful shoes behind you. So there, it's
My inspiration.
you're very inspiring. So Ruthie, let's begin from really like where you started as far as your education, where you went to college, what you studied, and sort of how you found yourself in this crazy business of ours.
Absolutely. Well, I actually went to liberal arts college, Bowdoin College up in Maine, and I studied English and visual arts. So I did watercolors, photography, but I never really thought of myself as becoming a designer at that time. So I was a big athlete. I, played a lot of sports, and I thought maybe I might go into sports journalism because, I majored in English. And so I kind of went that route. But I initially, and I did have some jobs like at the Hartford Current, on the sports desk, and I worked at ESPN as a production assistant. Um, and part of that was just I loved communicating. I love sports, but what I really loved in the sports were my ski outfits, my tennis outfits, the hookups, the tennis shoes. I mean, I used to think when I would go skiing, like in a ski race, it was a downhill. It was like a black tie event. I would pretend I was like a James Bond heroine, like shushing down the mountain in my one-piece cat suit. So I really loved the sports outfits.
I
So
love
I
it.
was kind of building this whole thing that was kind of like communication, tech fashion, all of that. And it evolved to me opening my own gym, my first entrepreneurial venture, which was a workout studio. And then I had a store adjacent to it where I sold all the leotards, the sneakers, everything you wear to work out. And of course,
I knew that.
I had like the coolest workout stuff, like the latest, great. This was like before Lululemon. It was like
Right.
Dance France was like the brand. And there were these, and so I had like the cool new stuff. And that was when I decided. I did that for a while, and it was very successful. I was the instructor of the classes. I had my own business. I was marketing myself. It was a real entrepreneurial venture. And that's when, I thought, you know what, I need a little more business savvy to take it to the next level. And that's when I went and got an MBA in entrepreneurship at Babson, just because I felt like, I was more the creative side, the English, the communicator, and I wanted to be fortified with that business knowledge so I would be able to do it on my own. And so, I mean, I'll never forget the first day of graduate school. I like came in like a workout leotard practically, and everybody else was like suits, and I was like, how do you turn on the computer? I mean, I was totally, this is when I'm old, so this was like early 90s.
Right.
So yeah, so I did the MBA, and literally the day before graduation I had some interviews lined up. And again, I still had that sort of sports communication, but I also really loved the sneakers, the sporting stuff. So I had an interview lined up at Reebok, and which was located, outside of Boston, where I was
Right.
going to business school. And so, they looked at my resume and they were like, she's done aerobic videos, she's had her own aerobic studio, and she has an MBA done, check,
Yeah.
check.
Yeah.
So I started my career in footwear at Reebok. So it was like all of a sudden it came together. And that's when, you know, while I was there, I realized I started out as associate product manager in the walking department. And as time went on, I evolved into the classics division. And I realized that I really liked designing the shoes, you know, that I had, that, you know, I was in the product team and we would manage the marketing people, the designers. It was almost like a little entrepreneurial venture, the way they had these pods.
Right.
At Reebok. And I realized that like my ideas for the designers sold more shoes than the designers' ideas. And so, and the reason I'm explaining all this is I come at a fashion designer from a different angle. I didn't go to design school, you know, liberal arts, have the MBA. And I actually was more on the business side of it. And I realized, you know, I had that marketing MBA, whatever, that my ideas, which were based on the consumer need in the market, the fashion trends, how you price the shoe, all those aspects that are important in an entrepreneurial venture, I put all of that into my designs, and those sold really well. So that kind of started the Ruthie Davis approach, which is I design from a place where marketing and design come together, where it's very consumer centric. I call my designing problem solving. You know, it's something you can't find in the market. It's, oh, I need shoes that hook up with my jacket. Why are there no Reeboks in bright yellow and bright neon green to match my jacket? Well, I did, when I was there, I made the bright neon ones, you know? So that's kind of more the type of designer that I am. And when I was at Reebok, Uggs started calling me because they said, you know, you took the classic Reebok and you added the fashion to it and the sales went up through the roof. Can you do that with the classic Ugg boot? Can you make it more fashion and get us in the magazines and on the celebrities, which is what I did at Reebok. And so they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. But when I went out to Uggs from the get-go, I said, I want to be involved in design and marketing.
Right.
So my title out there was VP of Design and Marketing. So I just started steering the boat, you know, more to the design side, less on the business side. And, you know, at Uggs, they had never had anybody do marketing or design. You know, it was kind of like a surfer dude brand. And yes. They brought me from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. And, you know, they charged me with like making it bigger in the East Coast, making the brand more fashion. So I did all the things I learned with my MBA in marketing and entrepreneurship at Reebok. I looked at the customers, I looked at the needs, I looked at, okay, and on the East Coast, they're not wearing Uggs because they don't perceive them as weatherproof enough. So I did the lug soles. You know, they're not showing it as luxury in Aspen and all the ski resorts. We could show them as après ski if we show the sheepskin. That's considered luxury. So I put the sheepskin on the outside of the boot, not just on the inside. Yeah. Again, problem solving. So, and I just zhuzhed the product. I put the sizzle on the steak, you know, I took it up a notch and product seeded it on the celebrities, Oprah, and then the Uggs took off. And that's when I was going to launch Ruthie Davis. I was like, okay, I've done this for Reebok. I've done it for Ugg. I need to do it for myself. And it was just a turning point where Tommy Hilfiger called and they were like, you know, they kind of, again, made me a great offer. And I thought, you know what, I'll do one more brand that's more of a fashion brand, because I thought Reebok and Uggs are more technical outdoor brands. I'll do one fashion brand before I launch Ruthie Davis, because I always looked at my career as like, step back, what's going to be the best for my career and my growth. It's like, okay, I learned that. I think I need a little bit of New York, because they're based in New York City. It's like, you know what? I never lived in New York City. It's the fashion business before I launched, because I knew I wanted my brand to be a fashion brand in New York City type of brand. So I thought, I'll work for one more company before I launch my brand. And that's when they moved me to New York, and I launched Tommy Girl shoes. I tried to make Tommy more fashionable. It was a little tougher because you're dealing with a licensee. It was Stride Right making the shoes. And what was good about it is I learned the fashion. I learned kind of it's a tough business. And I learned how you have to convince people of things. And it was probably the hardest couple of years of my life. And they made the shoes in both Brazil, China. I mean, I was constantly on a plane. And one day between trips, my husband said, "Can I ask you a quick question?" I was like, "Hurry up, I'm busy. I got to get ready for the next trip." And he said, "I just want to check in with you. Is your dream to be like president of Tommy Hilfiger or Tommy Hilfiger?"
Good question.
And I said, Tommy Hilfiger? And Ines is like, "Well, you're not getting any younger. You better make the leap soon because, time's a clicking." And that's when I realized it was time that, I needed to launch Ruthie Davis. So I kind of then put things in place to take that next step.
I wanted to just back up a little bit because a lot of the students are working both in merchandising, they're working in promotion. There are design students as well. And then there are students that are doing product development, which really is the marriage of creativity and merchandising. And so your background of having come from a liberal arts college, which is what Marist is, and then going to business school, having your own business, but really finding that way to take the things that you loved, sports, athleticism, style, being an entrepreneur, being your own person, and then bringing that to a brand, and then learning all the things that you needed to learn, and then going to another brand, doing the same thing. I think that's such a wonderful trajectory because I think that when somebody is in school or when they're just graduating, it's really hard to navigate. It's really hard to know which way to go. And I do think that it's really important just to keep showing up and to keep applying for jobs and take the jobs that feel, instinctually fitting with who you are. But I love that you came at this from a real marketing, merchandising, business point of view, because most designers will come from the solely creative place, and it gets them in trouble. It got me in trouble many times. And it was only when I had, learned a lot of mistakes. I had learned from a lot of my mistakes, but also when I started partnering with real business people and real merchants, was I able to really build a business that was significant. And I love that. So let's continue on with your journey. So your husband gives you that wonderful life-changing question.
Yeah, and I just was like, and I basically realized I needed to, because what happens is with these corporate jobs, you get so involved, you can barely come up for air, and years can go by, and you have to stop the madness for a minute if you want to make a sea change in your life. And so I was able to, negotiate a deal with them to stay on as a consultant, which worked out really well for me. While I would then launch Ruthie Davis. And I think the key was I knew, again, from all my experiences from these corporate brands, I knew how to write a business plan. I knew how to write a marketing plan. I knew you need a pitch. I knew you need a soundbite. I'm a big believer, if you can't explain your brand idea pretty quickly, you're going to lose somebody. So people would say to me, they're like, "Oh, you're leaving Tommy to go start your own brand? What? Why? What's it going to look like? Why are you doing that?" A lot of naysayers.
Yeah.
And I had to come up with I knew in my mind what I wanted to do, but I needed to articulate it to get people to buy into it. So I finally came up with this great line I used to say to people. They'd be like, "Oh, you're starting a brand." I said, "Well, imagine a Nike and a Manolo Blahnik had a baby. What would it look like? That's going to be a Ruthie Davis shoe." And, when I first launched the brand, I knew I needed it to be something to really make a message in the market. So I was very literal. I called it high tech, high fashion. And I had a titanium wedge. I had a graphite heel. I had bright neons like on a running shoe and like glow in the dark 3M material. You know, I really took that and brought it to like a high fashion shoe, and like high, literally high, like a platform, you know, high fashion. So it was something unique in the market. And right away I got on the cover of like Footwear News with my titanium wedge, and it did make a splash. And so it put me out there pretty quickly. But then of course you need to sustain it. So I kind of, since then I've evolved. It's not as literal high tech, high fashion. However, it's still within the brand. I mean, I can grab any shoe here. It's still kind of a good litmus test for my shoes. I mean, you know, would you consider this high tech, high fashion?
Yeah, totally. You know, what is that? Is that mesh or stretch?
This is neoprene.
Yeah.
And mesh and clear. Yeah. And this is for my, this is a Warrior Woman shoe for my Mulan collection with Disney.
Yeah.
But, you know, I could pull up, I try to pretty much make every single shoe I have, you know, even something like this dress shoe, it still has a little bit of the original DNA, high tech, high fashion, because, you know, here's your Nike.
Yeah.
The neon green is your Nike, and then the stiletto is your Manolo Blahnik.
I love it.
So this Nike and a Manolo had a baby.
Yeah, it sure does.
So it's sort of like, I do think it's important. You've got to have a clear idea, and it has to be a need in the marketplace that isn't being fulfilled. And the reason I felt, and John, this is interesting because you kind of come from we come from a slight different, you're the more classical designer, creative designer, and I came from like tech and like working at Reebok, and all the designers at Reebok, they were like industrial engineers. They designed on the computer. There was no freehand. It was none of that. And I used to think, you know, what they did, and then I would see what Louboutin, Manolo, Jimmy Choo, all of that with the beautiful hand sketching,
yes,
you know, old world. And I kept saying, I don't know why these two camps don't come together. Nobody's doing this combination. Now, by the way, this was years ago. I launched in 2006.
Yep.
Now we have brands like a lot of you young people know, Off-White and Vetements and all these cool sort of sports, street, high fashion brands. There were none of those back then. And that's why I was like, I'm going to make this happen. And that's what I always tell young people is like, you know, young designers is you can't just do only what you want. You've also got to find something. You got to do your research where they need it in the marketplace. People always say to me, and anybody who researches my brands will be like, oh, why don't you ever do flats? Everything's high. Everything is so high. You know, too many. Well, I'll tell you why. I've done flats and nobody buys them because they don't need more. You know, they have enough brands that do flats well, right, or low sensible heels. Yeah. That's not what people want me for. And you know so you just have to also, you got to find a niche, and then you got to stick with the niche. And then you've also got to let it evolve with the times, you know, and be true to your DNA. I think, you know, the one thing I would say over the years, I had a very strong vision, and I had to go against all odds because a lot of people would say, you're too this, you're too that. I was always, I don't know if you got this. I was, you know, my shoes are too high. They're too bright. They're too specific. You're dressed too tight. Your clothes are too tight. You work too hard. Everything was too. Everybody has wanted to water me down. They want me less. They want me more vanilla. You know, they want to water me down. And I would just be like, you know, I would plunge through it. But there were some years where I listened, because you do have to listen to feedback, absolutely, but where I listened a little too much. And I had department stores like Neiman Marcus and saying, oh, we need you to do a more plainer pump. We need you to do this. We'll buy a lot of pairs if you do it like this, you know, navy blue pump, whatever. And I would do it, and then they wouldn't sell. and then they would never buy me again. And I had to learn to be true to myself. And there were a few years where I kind of got off track on that. And, you know, it's really important to find your voice and then to be true to it.
Very much so. And it's funny because I had the same experience. Pardon me. I had a lot of retailers, especially when I was doing women's, that they was like, it's too masculine. It's too this. It needs more lace. It needs more ruffles. And so I would do that, and then they wouldn't buy it. And I would be like, well, wait. So I kept responding and reacting.
Yep.
And I teach this course now called The History of Modern Fashion. And the designers that I'm teaching about, the ones I think that are the most visionary, have a real vision from the beginning, like you, and they really stick to it, and they just keep going. Of course, you do have to listen to the market. You do have to adapt. But at the same time, you have to have that initial vision. And again, I love that you are coming at it from both a design perspective as well as a business, merchandising, product development, and marketing perspective.
Yes,
So,
I think that's really important. Yes.
I wanted to ask you about your social media, which is a very big part of your branding and your communications. And you definitely are like an early adopter. So tell me a little bit about your social media and sort of really what your approach is, what your daily practice is.
Well, I think I'm an early adopter because I was doing social media before social media started. When I worked at Reebok, they used to call me, and I actually was written up in the New York Times and LA Times. Like, I have like legit articles where they called me Reebok's cool hunter. And I used to, because I was always a big believer in listening to the customer, listening to the people on the street. So I would take a bag of shoes, a bag of Reeboks filled with sneakers that, you know, were prototypes or whatever it was. And we had our core markets for the classics, which were DC, Philly, New York. And I would go with a couple of my colleagues. We would literally open a bag of shoes on the sidewalk, and people would walk by. We'd say, what do you think? How would you do it different? Which was your favorite? What do you like? What do you not like? I mean, I could send you pictures of me holding up, like doing this. I actually have some photos of it. And so I was actually doing that kind of consumer feedback. Always, I felt I always needed that and believed in that. So when Instagram and all these things came about, I was ecstatic because now I could talk directly to the customer. You know, I have never been comfortable talking through a retailer to my customer. I'm like the epitome of a direct-to-consumer brand because I need to talk to my customer. You know, I don't like Neiman saying, oh, the customer would like this or this or this, because you know what, they were wrong, okay? That's who they want the customer to be, but that isn't my customer. Right. So I really love talking to her, showing shoes, him or her, showing them shoes, getting feedback, educating. I like to put a variety of things up there that are about the brand. Like if I'm talking, I'll put something on Insta story about talking, you know, to you all today, because I love talking to young people and, you know, inspiring designers. I'll put different messages about empowering women, or, you know, I did a whole, like for Pride Month, I did a collection. So I think it's important to use the platform to talk about the brand, what it stands for, what its DNA is, and then to get the feedback from people. I'm also, over the years, I'll be honest, like, I've had different teams of people I work with. You know, John, you know, we have the fancy office, we have the home office, we have this, we have that. So, and I used to have people who worked with me that would say, oh, you're not supposed to answer the comments on your Instagram or your Twitter. You're too big for that. You're not supposed to answer. They're going to think it's weird that Ruthie Davis responded. And I would, for a while, I was like, really? And they would be like horrified that I would actually go back and forth and talk. You know, now, thank God, I feel like the world's changed. Where now, like, I always was like that. I always was going to like every comment and was going to, if they asked a question, I'm going to answer the question. Because to me, they're the queens and kings. I'm servicing that customer. And so I'm a big believer. So yeah, I think the social media is critical for a brand like mine, is how to get the word out there, how to get the feedback, all of that. And it jazzes me up too.
I know you're very good at it. You've taught me a lot. Now, let's talk about some of the people that you've been dressing. I know that you've dressed a lot of different celebrities, a lot of people in the music world, especially.
Yes. Well, that's, from day one, I had my early adopters of the Ruthie Davis brand, like Beyonce was the go-to. Actually, her sister Solange wore the shoes first, and Beyonce saw them and said, "Where'd you get those?" And she said, "They're Ruthie Davis." And her mother, Tina, also wore my shoes. It was interesting because when I first launched the brand, I had a lot of entertainers that were literally, and I have many, many photos in the first, like, let's say 4 years of the brand, 5 years of the brand, that it was mostly performance entertainers that were wearing them on stage.
Right.
So they literally would wear the shoes like, Gaga, Beyonce, Ariana Grande. They would literally be performing in them. And my PR people would tell me it's because they're comfortable, that they're high, they're the kind of look they want, but they're more comfortable than the other brands. And I used to say, okay, this is really important because as a woman designing for women, because most shoe designers are men.
Yeah.
I said, as a woman, I wear the shoes myself. I test drive them, and I'm going to make sure your feet don't hurt, even if they're high. So I spent a lot of time on the last, on the comfort. And there's so many little things you can do to make a shoe, a stiletto like this, comfortable. The whole pitch, the last, the height in the toe box, like it doesn't crush your toes. There's many, many things that you can build. I put cushioning under the sock. I do a lot of things to make it more comfortable. So that was the original thing that a lot of celebrities flocked to. And since then, I've just always been a brand that, it's for someone who wants to walk in the room and, all the eyes turn. It's a great celebrity brand because it's an attention grabbing. I mean, look behind me, you stand out in these shoes. You stand out, you stand tall. So the celebrities have just liked to wear the shoes. I'm not a brand who has tons of shoes that I can throw out there to like the stylists, like,
exactly.
I don't have that many. So when you see a celebrity in my shoe, like they really they sought that shoe out and then they wore it, So I feel like I've always had a good thing with that because, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself, but today I'll get messages, like I'll repost their Insta story or whatever. And then they'll DM me and say, "Oh my God, your shoes were so comfortable. I could wear them all night." These are celebrities who I don't even know. They're just they feel they want to tell me that. So,
amazing.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it. So yes, at a certain point in my brand, I started calling myself the celebrity shoe designer because that was kind of my angle. Again, pro marketer here.
Yeah.
I was always coming up with the marketing angle. You got to make yourself stand out. So it was like celebrity shoe designer Ruthie Davis, and that kind of has worked for me over the years.
Oh, it's great. Now let's talk about Disney. You, I know you had experience working with licensing.
Yes.
Working with Reebok and Tommy and Uggs, but now you've started licensing and working with other partners like Disney. Can you talk about that partnership?
It's been a great partnership. It came about very organically. And when they partner with people, they like to partner with brands that fit the Disney umbrella and the story they're telling. So my original connection then was with the Disney Princess franchise. And the way that they're the modern Disney princesses, the way they position them are, these are strong women, these are independent women going after their dreams and working hard. And it's not about like being saved by a prince, it's the modern, like Mulan, these stories are different. And they saw me as an independent female shoe designer, entrepreneur, working hard, going after my dreams. And they just thought it was a great fit for that franchise. So we just started working together. I'm a licensee of Disney. I've done multiple collections. The next one, I did them along with a live action film, and the next one coming out is a Cinderella collection for the 70th anniversary of Cinderella, which is this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a very exciting one. And obviously, as a shoe designer, the Cinderella Slipper is like a shoe designer's dream.
Yes. Oh, wow. I love it. Now, you do a lot of, again, a big part of your voice, a big part of your DNA is about empowerment. And you actually do a lot of, pardon me, you do a lot of use of words and messaging on your actual shoes. Do you have anything that you can show us?
Yes, I just had the Breast Cancer Awareness Month shoe for this October. And this is called #Words of Encouragement, sorry. And it is about empowering, words of encouragement. And here I have love, hope, strength, stand up, and never give up.
Wow.
One of the reasons I like to put words on the shoes is because if you have it on a baseball cap or a t-shirt, it's great for the person you're talking to. But I do the words not so much to give the message to others, but to give it to yourself. So that when you're sitting down, you look down at your foot, or when you're walking, you look down, or you're having a coffee and you cross your leg and you look at your foot.
Yeah.
You remind yourself of the words. And for the Disney Cinderella shoe, I used words, and this is actually a sneak peek, you guys, because I haven't told anybody, in the market yet, because we haven't launched, but I'm going to give you guys a little insider info.
Okay.
When you're charged as a shoe designer, design the Cinderella Slipper, it's almost like too cliche, too obvious. I had to go deeper. I couldn't just do a pretty glass slipper.
Right.
It's been done before. So I thought, it needs to go a lot deeper. So I decided to use my words, to use my empowerment and encouragement, and to make this Cinderella Slipper very special. And why it's special, it's very simple design. It's a well-fitting design, but the message is one of inclusivity. It's a fluid sizing, extended sizing. So anybody who wants to wear this Cinderella Slipper can. And the message is, this isn't about an exclusive fit for one foot where, the prince goes and fits everybody's feet, and then Cinderella's, and she's the beautiful princess, slender foot, fits perfectly. No, my Cinderella Slipper will fit any foot. It could be a guy's foot, a girl's foot, a large foot, a small foot. I don't care. Every shape, size, color, whatever. And it's a message of this: if anyone who works hard and has a dream can achieve their dream and can fit this slipper. So I wrote right on it, the shoe fits me.
Oh, I love it.
And I did it in an oleographic leather out of Italy that I sourced that looks like glass. And I did the outsole in glitter.
Look at you.
And then on the insole, it has the logo, Ruthie Davis Hart, Disney Princess, with the original Cinderella Slipper from the movie, the icon of the original.
Wow. What a great idea. What a great project. And I really do love that it's all about inclusivity, and that people that are, no matter how they identify as gender, that you have something for them. Yeah.
If they want to wear this shoe, they can wear the shoe and it's going to fit them. And, nothing, it's not an exclusive fit. Like in the story, it's an exclusive fit.
Yeah,
exactly. That I didn't like about the story.
Right. Now,
even the evil stepsisters, okay? This would fit them.
Let me ask you, so we are 8 months into the pandemic, and of course it has affected everybody in every which way. How has this affected your business and your own approach to working?
I'm very lucky in that, everybody sort of in the fashion business, when the pandemic started happening, it was like going into survival mode. You would hear all these articles, and I would laugh at my husband and say, well, I'm or I would laugh to you, my friend, and say, I've kind of been in survival mode for a while. And what I mean by that is, so yeah, to answer your question, yes, I have evolved and changed due to the pandemic, but I also feel like the market was already going in a lot of the directions that the pandemic just kind of made it quicker happen. And I was already kind of going that direction. And what that direction was to be more direct to consumer, more digital, more self-sufficient, not relying on other people. Because if you're a wholesaler and you're relying on all these retailers and then pandemic happens, they all close, what do? So not relying on anyone but yourself, having your own website. And also, the more sort of self-oriented, things that you are in charge of or in control of, like even the shipping, the distribution, the factory, like just getting things so that you are in control when something like this happens, of point A to point Z of your product life cycle and your brand. So I was already going in that direction. And in some ways I actually liked, I tried to see the silver linings. I actually liked that this afforded me to, because I was still in some retailers. That got me out of those retailers. And I could say, you know what, I'm just focusing on ruthiedavis.com. Yeah. And I really weathered the storm. I love a challenge. I'm kind of a scrapper. I like being an underdog. So like I got all these shoes back from retailers and I just had them all in my place and I just shipped shoes. I went to UPS every day and I actually did a handwritten note on the invoice, like stay safe, Ruthie Davis. Very old school entrepreneur. Like I did it all. And I love that. Now, this isn't for everybody, but I personally love that. I don't need to be like up here and then have everyone else doing. I'm the person who packs the shoes, designs the shoes, wears the shoes, goes to UPS, does the UPS label, cleans the shoes. I mean, you name it, I do it. I'm a cobbler, basically. Yeah. I have like a whole set where I fix shoes in the back, I have a cobbler's office. So I kind of liked that part of it. And I actually think, and just talking to you all today, that this is a great time for people coming out of, going into fashion, whether it's merchandising, business, design, because there's so many, whenever you have something like this happen, where there's a lot of negativity, there's always new opportunity. And I do think that, and John, you would agree, I know, because we've had many talks, that the fashion industry needed some shakedown anyway, the way it was set up. It wasn't a sustainable model, really. And that's the difference. I think what's encouraging right now is everybody realizes we need to create sustainable models, because we can't rely on things going the way they always will. There may be a pandemic, there may be something else. So we need to come up with a way that we get through it and it can withstand the storms. And so that part of it, I think there's a lot of great opportunity. I also think it's leveled the playing field. So a smaller independent brand like mine can compete more directly with the larger brands, because it's not like, you're going to their stores. It's not like they can use all that, events and, all that stuff they would do in runway shows to have an edge. Now they're doing Instagram just like I am. Or TikTok. Yeah. And so it's actually kind of exciting time for these smaller fashion labels right now.
I agree with you. I so agree. Now, my last question to you is, what one piece of advice would you have for these students? And again, these are students that are studying design, merchandising, business, promotion, product development. Like what? And I know this is kind of general, but what would that one thing be? Because I know that you mentor a lot of students, and I know that you're very in touch with where these students are in their head. What could you say to these students today that might just give them a little bit of a sense of hope, or a sense of where to go next?
Well, it's very hard to just say one thing.
I know.
So I have to do two. Because one of them we already talked about, but I just need to reconfirm it. which is the first part would be to always come from a place of yes. If someone asks you to do something, say yes, try it. You never know when you're going to figure out what's best for you or which opportunity is going to be best. So what that means also is don't sit back and wait for this perfect job, this perfect vision of what you think you need to do. You have to say yes, and then you make it your vision. Every job I had, every experience I had, I took it 180 degrees. I made it much more. I went beyond the job description. I created my own niche. So I don't care what entry-level job, you can take it, get your foot in the door and figure it out. Don't have this pressure to figure it out. Just say yes and try it, do as much as you can. But we said that, all right, so that doesn't count as my one piece of advice. So then the second piece would be, I think the thing I would say right now to give everybody hope, because this is what I talk to myself, and I really, really believe this, and I'm very excited about this. I think the world is in a really great place because everybody's voice is being heard and things are shook up. And from that comes a lot of growth and a lot of exciting new things. And I think that the definition of success and these boxes that we grow up with, you have to do this to be successful, you have to achieve this to be successful, throw it out the window, because you've got to retrain your mind, and you got to really believe that success is the definition is evolving and changing. So to give you an example, when I started Ruthie Davis, I used to say, oh, I want to be the next Louboutin, Christian Louboutin. I want to be this big, famous shoe, in all the stores, my name in lights. I don't want that now. My definition has evolved. I like my definition now better. I would rather run a profitable business, something I'm proud of what it stands for, and I'm proud of the product. I love the product. I believe in the product. I actually enjoy my day. I can't wait to get up in the morning and work on my brand. So I actually like the journey. And that's basically that. I believe in the brand. I mean, and I have a brand that's sustainable. And what I mean, and this is actually really important to all of you going in different facets of the business, don't underestimate having a brand that is able to pay its bills and make a profit. Even if it's a smaller brand, I don't need to make multiple millions. I just need to pay my bills and be able to pay myself to have a decent apartment and a couple trips a year, and a couple good handbags. I'm not going to lie. So it's, I don't need to be a household name. I like to be a niche name. I have my following and my people who know me. I don't think I'd want everybody to know me. That's like too much. So I kind of think it's a smaller, I think these big visions of success should come down, and it should also be something you feel good about and you enjoy your day. But I do think in order to feel good and happy and enjoy your day, you don't want the stress of bills and debt and people you owe. And that's very stressful. So you just need to be very smart. You don't need to have all this, if you're in a home office, like whatever it takes. I have a very small group of people working with me because I want to be able to pay my bills and make a profit and have a business that can last and not go under, Yeah. So I could have a fancier office and more people and more this and that, but then the money's going to run out, because right now the money coming in isn't enough for that kind of, so again, that's what I mean by a sustainable business. And also a product, a business, you're proud of what the message is and what it stands for. So I think that's take the pressure off. In summary, take the pressure off for you're only going to be successful if you're this. Define your own success and feel good about it.
And I love the whole idea of just saying yes, because you never know. But I think that you just never know what's around the corner, and you're going to learn something from every situation. And I know that sometimes we look at these jobs, or we think, well, I want to be the, executive vice president, but we don't know how to get there. The only way to get there is by starting from the bottom, starting from the beginning. And I just think that you're such an amazing inspiration to so many young people. And the fact that you are, you're really living your dream. You embody the Ruthie Davis character. You embody the Ruthie Davis brand, of course. So now where do we find you on Instagram and TikTok?
Oh, thanks for asking, because I'd love everybody to follow me. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Instagram is Ruthie_Davis. And obviously RuthieDavis.com is the website.
Yes.
And I think Twitter's Ruthie_Davis also.
Okay.
And I think TikTok is Ruthie Davis brand.
Okay, cool. And
So,
I do hope that you will come visit us when things open up again.
I would love to. And any of you who are watching this video, feel free to follow me on Instagram and DM me. If you have questions after this, say, about whatever, I will, like I said, I will respond. So
Great. Ruthie, it's such a joy to be with you today. And let's have dinner.
Let's do it. And by the way, I'm your biggest fan. So
you're the best.
No, you are.